The biggest movie of 1993 opens with an industrial accident. Night shift, floodlights, a crate the size of a shipping container coming off a forklift while 20 men with rifles stand in a half circle, and the only instruction anyone gives is the posture of the guns. The crate holds a machine part. We know this because everything around it is procedure. The gatekeeper climbs on top like he's done it 40 times. The doors lift. The pen takes delivery. And then the procedure fails. One man is dragged in by the arm, and the site supervisor screams the first memorable line of the film at a paddock they built and cannot stop. A worker dies during a routine transfer 30 seconds into a summer blockbuster. Nobody has seen the product yet. The next cut might be the boldest edit in the movie. A lawyer. A lawyer in a hard hat, being lowered into an amber mine, explaining that after the accident the insurance underwriters want outside experts to inspect the park before anyone sells a ticket. That's the plot. That is the entire load-bearing plot of the highest-grossing film ever made to that point. A safety inspection with a weekend deadline. The paleontologist, the paleobotanist and the mathematician are consultants on a site visit, and the site fails the visit in 18 hours. Every monster movie before this one built an animal. This one built the facility. The fences have voltages. The embryos have version numbers. The tour cars run on a buried rail, and the owner has a phrase he repeats like a warranty. Spared no expense. He'll say it 5 times. Keep count, because the 5th one is waiting at the bottom of this file, and it lands somewhere the warranty can't reach. And at the bottom of this file, filed under 2025, there's a company worth $10 billion and 3 white wolf puppies.
You don't love me!
We're working down to them. If you were here for the DeLorean, you know the house rule. The honest ones get remembered. This film is about to spend 2 hours proving it owns that rule. Welcome back to the shipyard. This is Autopsy 9. The movies had run this experiment before, and the yard keeps the incident reports. 1933. A showman ships the 8th wonder of the world to Broadway, builds it with searchlights, and restrains it with what he proudly calls chrome steel. The containment spec is 4 chains and a stage. The failure trigger is a wall of press flash bulbs, and the audience that paid to see the monster contained gets to see the other thing instead. Kong set the genre's business model in one night. The ticket and the escape are the same product. 40 years later, a novelist turned director ran it again, properly. Westworld, 1973. Written and directed by Michael Crichton. A resort of robot cowboys. A central control bunker full of technicians in lab coats and a marketing line. Boy, have we got a vacation for you. That the film wields the way a coroner holds a toe tag. The machines drift out of Spec. The engineers watch the graphs climb, and the guests get hunted by the merchandise. Sound familiar? Same author. This was the first draft. Crichton spent the next 17 years upgrading the question, and in 1990 he published the second draft as a novel that reads like an incident report with a body count, population graphs printed on the page, computer screens reproduced in the text, a park that fails because of how it was administered. Universal bought it for Spielberg in May of 1990, a year before the book shipped, at Crichton's non-negotiable price, $1.5 million plus a cut of the gross. Warner had Burton on it, Fox had Dante, Columbia had Donner. Every studio in Hollywood looked at a novel about system administration and said yes, that one. Intake form before the first work order, and it's a waiver this time. Name one fictional park, any movie, that you would actually sign the release form for. One park. The comments are open and the yard reads everything. So, Isla Nublar, a helicopter, and an old man in linen who wants to show his inspector something that isn't an illusion. The tour starts with a cartoon, an actual cartoon. 40 minutes into the biggest movie of 1993, the film stops dead and plays you an infomercial. An animated double helix with a southern accent walks the entire production pipeline. Mosquito bites dinosaur. Mosquito drowns in sap. Sap fossilizes. A lab straw pulls the blood 65 million years later. Quick tangent. This is basically my own hometown. It's ringed by swamps, so every single summer it drowns in mosquitoes. They built a statue of one and made it the local mascot. Ancient bug blood pulled out of amber. Back home we just call that July. And the gaps in the code, this is the part to file. Get patched with frog DNA. Children in the test audience reportedly followed it fine. So did the screenwriters, because every catastrophe in this movie is a line item from that cartoon. The lab scene finishes the spec sheet in live action. The embryos are version 4.4, which tells you there were 4.3 iterations of dinosaur nobody talks about. Every animal on the island is engineered female, so the population can't breed. And if anything gets off the island anyway, the lysine contingency, the animals can't produce an amino acid they need, miss their supplement for 7 days, and they slip into a coma. A kill switch, stated out loud, on camera in the control room. Malcolm hears the all-female line and files the objection that became the film's tagline, "Life finds a way," and the movie then does something most movies cannot afford. It remembers.
You're implying that a group composed entirely of female animals will breed?
No, I'm simply saying that life finds a way.
The frog DNA from the cartoon comes back an hour later with interest because certain West African frogs change sex in a single-sex population. The patch in the code is the hole in the fence. The cheapest line in the cartoon is the one that ends the park. Also preserved for the record, the finest boardroom exchange in cinema. Dinosaurs eat man. Woman inherits the earth.
God creates man. Man destroys God. Man creates dinosaur.
Dinosaur eat man. Woman inherits the earth.
The cartoon promised the dinosaur. Somewhere in Van Nuys, California, a crew of sculptors was building one that weighed as much as an elephant, and on rainy days it developed a mind of its own. The T-Rex that broke out of the paddock in 1993 was a real machine with a real weight problem. Stan Winston's shop built her full size, 36 feet nose to tail, 12,000 pounds, foam latex skin over a hydraulic frame bolted to a platform borrowed from flight simulator technology, driven by operators working her like a 40-foot puppet with a crew behind a mixing desk. And on the night shoots, in the storm scenes, the latex skin drank the rain and put on water weight. And between takes the Rex would shudder and twitch on her own, while she dried out, which the crew treated with the respect you'd give a horse that bites. The machine they built to play a malfunctioning machine kept malfunctioning, and Spielberg shot around her sick days. I love this fact more than any other fact in the file. The raptors in the kitchen are men in suits, legs folded into the tails, and the sick Triceratops is a sculpture that breathes on cue. Count what that buys the film. The actors are acting against something that has weight and pushes air. The digital work, the part everyone remembers as the revolution, is rationed like fuel. Total dinosaur screen time in a 2-hour film, about 15 minutes. The computer-generated share of that, 6. The revolution is roughly 50 shots, spent only where physics pries the puppet out of the scene. And the cost of the revolution gets its own line in the ledger. Phil Tippett, the stop-motion master hired to animate the dinosaurs the old way, watched ILM's computer test and said, "I think I'm extinct."
You know, it's like suddenly, here we are, we're extinct, we're the dinosaurs. And of course that irony wasn't lost on any of us.
We're out of a job. Don't you mean extinct?
Spielberg liked the obituary so much he gave it to Goldblum. Tippett stayed on to direct the animators' performances, and the credits list him under the most fact-checked job title on the internet, Dinosaur Supervisor. The Yard rules the meme unfair. The one visible supervision failure in the film is a personnel matter, and we're coming to it. Because every fence, every camera, every door lock and every tour car on that island routes through a single room, and the man at the keyboard has been arguing about his invoice for months.
The money, Skylar, where is the rest?
Spared no expense. 4 of the 5 inside the first 45 minutes. Over the champagne.
Spared no expense.
At the lunch table.
And spared no expense.
In the garage over the tour cars.
Spared no expense.
And once about the voice actor on the tour tape.
We spared no expense.
Now audit the claim. The park runs 2 million lines of code administered by exactly one man on an island with live carnivores, and that man is in an open salary dispute with the owner. The film gives you Dennis Nedry's grievance in one line at the console, blaming his financial problems on Hammond's cheapness.
Or cheap? You know anybody who can network 8 connection machines and debug 2 million lines of code for what I bid for this job?
And the novel, for the record, itemizes it. He bid the contract low, the specs kept changing after signature, and when he pushed back, Hammond leaned on him with the threat of being frozen out of the industry. So a genetics company called Biosyn sends a man in a Panama hat to a cafe in San Jose with an envelope of cash and a shaving cream can with a false bottom. $750,000 plus 50 per viable embryo, and the film does the math on camera. $1.5 million if he gets all 15 species off the island. 36 hours of coolant in the can. Dodgson. We've got Dodgson here. Nobody cares. What Nedry does next is the most instructive part, because it's precise. His script kills camera circuits and paddock fences on a timer on a Friday night in a storm, sized to an 18-minute round trip to the East Dock. He leaves the raptor fences hot, and the film confirms it at the board. No, they're still on, because he plans on surviving the drive. He even locks the door behind him. Any keyboard that touches his session gets the cartoon finger, and you didn't say the magic word. On loop. While Samuel L. Jackson burns through a pack of Marlboros behind him. One underpaid contractor, one switch, and the perimeter of the most expensive zoo in history goes dark in the order his script listed. Payroll opened the T-Rex paddock. The movie then pays the debt on camera, in the rain, with a canister of embryos rolling into the mud under 6 inches of new topsoil.
Well, yeah, that's nice. Gotta go. Nice dinosaur. And no wonder you're extinct. I'm gonna run you over when I come back down.
Grandma signed for a package on Monday, a resin paperweight with a mosquito in it from a souvenir shop in the Dominican Republic. She's been at the bench with it all week, and she has 4 findings. Finding 1. The straw. DNA has a shelf life, and in 2012 a team dating Moa bones in New Zealand measured it. A half-life of about 521 years, which means the code doesn't survive 65 million. It survives about 1.5 million on the absolute best day of its life. The oldest genetic material ever recovered, sediment out of Greenland in 2022, is around 2 million years old. The gap between the record and the recipe is 63 million years. And in 2013, a Manchester lab actually ran the movie's own experiment on insects in hardened resin and pulled out nothing usable at all. The university's own press office titled the result, "The Final Nail in the Jurassic Park Coffin." Finding 2. The chase. The film says a T-Rex can pace a Jeep in second gear, and the film also hangs a mirror in the shot. Reading objects are closer than they appear, which is the best sight gag in the movie, and Grandma wants it noted before she ruins it. A 2017 Manchester Gate study put the animal ceiling around 12 miles per hour, above which the skeleton loads past safe limits. The Jeep was never in danger. Neither, for the record, were you. A 2006 Oregon study rebuilt her eyes and found binocular vision wider than a hawk's, with acuity estimates up to 13 times a human's, so the famous advice, "Don't move and she can't see you," is a marinade. The novel knew. The novel filed the frog DNA patch note for the vision bug. The movie shipped without the documentation. Finding 3. The raptor. The real velociraptor was the size of a turkey, and we now know, feathered. Crichton knowingly borrowed the name and built his animal on Deinonychus, a 6-footer, following a taxonomist who lumped them, and then the ground filed an amendment. In June of 1993, the same month the film opened, paleontologists formally described Utahraptor, a raptor at movie scale or better. They tried to sell Spielberg the naming rights, Utahraptor Spielbergy, in exchange for dig funding. The deal fell through, and the species honors 2 paleontologists instead. The fossil record does not do product placement. Grandma has read a lot of Spec sheets. She has never seen the fossil record issue a recall notice in the vendor's favor during launch week. Finding 4. The kill switch. The lysine contingency, the park's dead man's break. One problem. No animal on Earth synthesizes lysine. Not dinosaurs. Not dogs. Not you. It's an essential amino acid. Everything alive gets it from food, which means the park's proprietary last resort fail-safe ships, standard on all of biology and has never once contained anything. They engineered a dependency on lunch. 3 fails and a lucky amendment, and none of it sank the park. The thing that sank the park was on the weather radar all afternoon, and the man who could have rerouted around it was busy filling a shaving cream can. Everything Nedry switched off stays off. The storm arrives on schedule, and the film caches the spec sheet.
What is that? Where's the goat?
There is no music in that scene. None. Rain, rope creak, 2 kinds of screaming, and a machine dying by circuits, and 30 years of comment sections keep discovering that on their own, which tells you the sound department knew exactly which scene was the cathedral. Now watch the failure spread the way an engineer reads it, because the film never cheats a circuit. The census can't warn anyone, and the novel says why in one beautiful, stupid, utterly believable design choice, the computer counts dinosaurs up to the number it expects, then stops looking. The extra animals were invisible because the software was told how many there were. On screen you get the short version, a nest of broken shells, and Grant saying, "Life found a way." Arnold does what every admin on Earth does at 2 in the morning. Hold on to your butt.
Hold on to your butts.
And hard restarts an entire theme park. The reboot works. The catch is physical. The breakers sit in a maintenance shed across the compound, so bringing the grid back is a quarter-mile walk in the rain, past the one paddock Nedry never touched. And the doors. When the grid sags, the door locks sag with it, and the film keeps strict books on this. The kitchen door holds because it's a latch. The control room lock comes and goes with the power, and the whole species survives, because a 12-year-old recognizes the file manager. It's a unique system, I know this. Got laughed at for 3 decades, and the laughers were wrong. That's FSN, a real 3D file navigator that shipped on Silicon graphics machines. The most mocked screen in 90s cinema is one of the only real ones. The Yard extends Lex a formal apology on behalf of the internet. And while all of it burned, The park never stopped doing the one thing it did better than any movie machine before or since. It kept writing everything down. The park documents itself the way our DeLorean did, and the film photographs the paperwork. The cold room is labeled per species in machine print. The stolen embryos ride in a prop with a stated spec, 36 hours of viability, and that shaving cream can is such honest set dressing that the franchise dug it out of the mud 29 years later and put it in Dodgson's office in Dominion, still canon, like evidence that never cleared. The tour cars narrate themselves, and Hammond brags about the voice. We got Richard Kiley, spared no expense. That's a real actor, playing himself, hired by a fictional park inside the film. The park's self-regard extends to celebrity procurement, and the movie bills it as a warranty claim. And the gift shop. Malcolm torches it at lunch before the park has run one tour. You stood on the shoulders of geniuses, and before you even knew what you had, you packaged it, and now you're selling it. The shelves behind him carry the exact merchandise Universal sold in real lobbies that summer. The film indicts its own marketing plan, in frame, and the marketing plan still worked anyway. Call that hypocrisy if you want, but the Yard books it as honesty, because the movie showed you the invoice before it sent one. Which leaves the ending, where the owner of the machine reads the inspection report out loud over a plate of melting ice cream and signs it. Nobody repairs anything. That's the ending, and it's the most honest hour of the film's runtime compressed into a look. The survivors don't rig a fix, don't retake the control room, don't save the park. They get to the helicopter. The inspection result is delivered in a line trade with no lawyers present. Hammond, holding the amber-topped cane.
After careful consideration, I've decided not to endorse your park. So have I.
After careful consideration, I've decided not to endorse your park. Grant. So have I. The machine gets the last word anyway. In the visitor center, over the skeletons, the T-Rex roars and the park's own banner shakes loose and falls past her jaws. When dinosaurs ruled the earth, the marketing department's copy delivering the coroner's summary. And the pelicans over the water, which is the film quietly filing its last spec note. The dinosaurs never went anywhere. You've been feeding them at the pier your whole life. The park was condemned on camera by its own founder. The file should close. It doesn't, because 22 years later somebody reopened the facility with 20,000 guests inside, and the Yard needs you to see what the same machine looks like without the ledger. Jurassic World is the park working. 20,000 visitors a day, a monorail, a Starbucks, a splash zone. And credit where due, the film knows its economics. Attendance spikes whenever a new asset debuts, so the lab is told, in writing, to design a bigger animal. The customer asked for more teeth, says the geneticist, and that is a real sentence from a real industry, just usually about phone cameras. Then the service questions, same for we ask every machine, where's the spec sheet? Classified, even from the animal's own handlers. What's the containment logic? A 40-foot wall with a ground-level personnel door, into which 3 employees, including the park's operations manager, walk on a hunch without calling the control room that is actively tracking the animal. What fails? Nothing electrical. Nobody cut a wire. Nobody skipped an invoice. The people just stop following procedure because the script needs them to. In 1993, the fence died of a payroll dispute you could audit line by line. In 2015, the wall dies of a staff meeting nobody held. The Yard can only write up one of those. It made $1.67 billion, so the market has spoken, and the Yard doesn't argue with markets. But go read the comments under any 2015 clip and count how many say some version of the same sentence. The 93 dinosaurs look more real. The audience can't name the wiring diagram it's missing. it can feel the absence. And while the sequels were rebuilding the park in fiction, a company in Dallas started building the laboratory, not a metaphor. Wolves. Before the running starts, Hammond gets one quiet scene, and Attenborough plays it like a deposition. The flea circus, Petticoat Lane, a motorized swing, a tiny trapeze, and people swearing they could see fleas that were never there. With this place, he says, over ice cream going to soup, I wanted to show them something that wasn't an illusion, something real.
I wanted to show them something that wasn't an illusion. Something that was real. Something that they could
Hold that sentence up to the light and it's the whole machine. A showman who got tired of lying and decided to spare no expense on the truth, except the one expense that mattered. The most honest ambition in the film is the reason there's a body count. And then Attenborough closes the scene with the quietest line reading in the picture. I told you to keep count. The fifth spared no expense. The last one, spoken to a bowl of melting ice cream in a park that has already killed people.
spared no expense.
The warranty expired an hour ago and the salesman is still reading it out loud. Now the mirror. In April of 2025, a Dallas company called Colossal Biosciences held up 3 white wolf puppies, Romulus, Remus and, forgive me, Khaleesi, and told the world it had brought back the dire wolf, gone for over 12,000 years. Time magazine ran the cover. The valuation stood at $10.2 billion, and the Joe Rogan clip that did 22 million views is titled, this is the actual title, The Man Building Jurassic Park. The company's own chief scientist, Beth Shapiro, literally wrote the book on this, How to Clone a Mammoth. And the book's core finding was that you can't. The code is too old. The straw comes up empty, exactly as grandma measured. So Colossal doesn't clone. It took living grey wolf cells and made 20 edits. And a month after the cover story, Shapiro herself said the quiet part in public, these are grey wolves with 20 edits. The World Authority on Wolves filed the formal version, not dire wolves, not even acceptable proxies, which is when a line from the second best film in this franchise stops being satire and becomes a press release. Nothing in Jurassic World is natural. You didn't ask for pure, you ask for more teeth. So, the certificate, 5 stamps, 5 of 5, third file in a row. And that is not a coincidence anymore. That is a law of the yard. The park failed its inspection. The film, Past Hours, The Martian, The DeLorean, and now the park. 3 honest machines, 3 times running. The honest ones get remembered. No ballot this time. The next slab is already bolted to the bench, and it's the one with the wings. But before we close the file, one last look at the thing. This movie got right. The reason any of us ever cared. For one quiet minute, the machine worked. And it was beautiful. The gift shop is to your left. The yard counts everything.
It's a dinosaur.